horror reading challenge? Yes, please. You guys know that I love the Our Fantasy Bingo Challenge. I do it every single year. And this year, Sarah from Wicked Reading is bringing us a horror version. She has created this amazing bingo board. It has an easy mode and a hard mode, and you guys know that I'm going to be doing my best to complete hard mode for this. I will link Sarah's announcement video down in the description box for you guys to check out in case you were interested in participating. I love spooky season. I love leaning into spooky season, but the best thing about this challenge is it goes year round. So even if you don't complete it in October, November, you've got plenty of time. We're making all of this next year spooky season. I am going to try to black out the board as well as do hard mode for everything. That is my goal. Will I succeed? I don't know, but I do want to try. I always try to black out the board and do hard mode for Our Fantasy as well. So this is going to be like my tentative list. There are some prompts on here that I couldn't find books for. So if you guys have any suggestions or any recommendations, I would love, love, love for you to leave them down in the comments because I was struggling. So let me do a little scooch over here. We're gonna go across starting from top and working our way down to the bottom. For the first prompt, we have published in 2024, and the hard mode for this is to complete the book in 2024. For this one, I think I'm going to go with Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. This came out this year. It is his newest release. It is about a group of people that once you are ostracized or canceled on the internet, you can go to this like summer camp in order to get away and remake yourself, but heads are gonna start rolling and that does not sound good. I plan to read that really, really soon, so I think that I won't have any trouble finishing it before the end of the year. The next prompt is The End Times Are Near, and this is to read a post-apocalyptic setting book. The hard mode for this one is the book needs to have an epilogue, and I don't really know if this one has an epilogue. It was on Sarah's suggested books, but I don't think that she mentioned if it had an epilogue either. I'll need to go back and watch the announcement video for that. That is Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I have given 2 books of his 5 stars. The Head Full of Ghost and horror movie I read this year, and I am so excited to read more from him. This one absolutely terrifies me because I've heard so many mixed reviews on it, but it's one that I really, really, really want to get to, and I've been meaning to read for a very long time, so now's my opportunity. Then we move on to This Is Halloween, and this is a book set on Halloween. For the hard mode for this one is very, very hard. Sarah really went all out there and made sure that she was challenging us with these hard modes, and I am here for it. I love it. But it's to have a book that not only is set on Halloween, but also mentions trick-or-treating. This one was a little bit harder for me. I tried to find a lot of like different Halloween books, but nothing's ever gonna tell you if it's mentioning trick-or-treating or not. You're just gonna have to read it and find out. So on Sarah's TBR, she mentioned The Dark Harvest, and I think that I'm gonna include this one. It is set on Halloween. It is a historical, which scares me, but I think it's relatively short. So I'm hoping that I enjoy it, and I'm really hoping that it mentions trick-or-treating. Next up, we have Blood on the cover, and this is a book where there is a lot of blood imagery on whatever edition you are reading. And the hard mode for this one is just that it has to be very recognizable. It cannot just be a couple of drops of blood. It has to be blood. And for this one, I'm going to be going with the Evernight edition of Eyes Are the Best Part. This is a book that I have heard so many good things about. I've heard it is beyond weird and very disgusting, and I am here for that. This edition, like the entire bowl surrounding him, looks like blood. It even wraps around, so I think this will absolutely count for blood on the cover, and I am so excited to get to this. Then we have Woods or Wilderness, and that is a book that uses the woods as the main setting, but the hard mode for this one is that the woods cannot be featured on the cover of the book. I might be stretching this one just a little bit, but we're gonna go with it for now. I think it counts, and that is The Sacrifice by Ren Chapeko. This does not have woods on it. Like, there are not woods on this cover. There are fern vines, like fern leaves, but ferns are not trees. So I think this counts. I think it counts. It might be a teeny bit of a stretch, but we're gonna use it. I think this counts. This is a young adult horror that I have been eyeing for a very, very long time. It's like sacrifices to the gods, and it just sounds incredible. Now moving on to the second row, we have Honoring the Classics, and that is to read a book that is either a classic or a retelling reimagining of a classic. The hard mode for this one is to be featuring a classic written before 1950. I'm not a classics girly. I don't read a lot of classics, nor do I particularly read retellings of classics, but I am open to them. So I don't particularly have a book in this spot right now. She said that you could have one freebie that you just basically read anything for and you didn't have to follow the prompt. This one could be mine. However, I am open to suggestions on this one. So if you have anything that is a reimagining, retelling of a classic horror set before 1950, I'm being very specific, please let me know down in the comments. I don't want to read the actual classic, but I am open to reading a reimagining or retelling of it. Next up, we have a translated work, and that is a book translated from the author's native language. The hard mode is that there is a translator's note. I don't know about the translator's note currently because I don't have the book in front of me, but I'm going to assume that there is a translator's note in this, and I will be verifying before, obviously, I use it for the hard mode for this prompt. But your girl has never read Tender as the Flesh, and I am terrified to read Tender as the Flesh. I am not a vegetarian. I think I would have a very hard time living on vegetables because I don't like them. So I don't want to read this book because I think it's going to make me want to become a vegetarian. But this one is a translated work. I'm petrified to read it, but we're gonna give it a go. Then we have a cover pick, so a book that interests you because of the cover. And hard mode for this one is that you don't know anything about it. All you know is that it has a pretty cover. For this one, I think I'm going to be going with the Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. All I know is that it has a lava lamp on it, and I'm here for it. I don't know anything about it. I tend to not love Grady Hendrix books. I didn't go through and read the synopsis for it, so I'm not going to be able to tell you what it's about, but it has a really cool lava lamp on the cover. Then we have Reaper Read. This is one of the other ones that I did not have a book picked out for. This is a book that is featuring death, but the hard mode for this one is a book that death is personified in some way in the book. So a character or something like that. And I don't really know. I do really enjoy grief horror. I've found that out over the years. Ghost Eaters, I really enjoyed. Blanky, I really enjoyed, but I don't know of anything that I haven't read that features death as a personified like manifestation. So I do need recommendations for this one. If you guys have any, please let me know because it was one of the more challenging ones. The title has a spooky word, so it can feature any kind of spooky word. I'm assuming this is pretty much up to interpretation. And the hard mode for this one is that it has 2 spooky words. For this one, I'm going to be going with the Clown in the Cornfield 3, The Church of Friendo. For me, clown is a scary word. I don't like clowns. Friendo is terrifying. We don't like friendo. Therefore, 2 spooky words. This is the 3rd book in the Clown in the Cornfield series, and these are just a lot of fun. They're young adult slashers. They're always super fast reads, and I'm excited to see what the 3rd one entails. Next up, we have Dead Man Walking. So this is a book that features reanimated corpses or zombies. The hard mode for this one is that it has to be a part of a series. And I was in luck because I read Feed a really long time ago by Mira Grant, and I've been needing to get to Deadline for a very long time. This is a post-apocalyptic setting where there are zombies that have taken over the world, and we have a group of people that are trying to become the newscasters and cover the election for the newer president after the zombie outbreak. I liked book 1 a lot. I gave it a 4-star. It really surprised me, so I'm excited to move on to the sequel. I just hope that I remember enough because it's been a while. Then we have genre bending. So this is a book that contains horror with another element, so romance or sci-fi, something like that. And for this one, I don't know if it counts or not, but I did look up on Reddit horror romance because I read a lot of horror sci-fi, but not a lot of horror romance, and I really wanted to kind of step out there and read something a little bit different. I've been loving romantasy this year, so why not horror romance? And I found that Soul to Keep was on this list. Is this actually horror? I don't know, but it is monster romance, so I'm gonna consider it close enough. I've seen this cover all the time and have always loved it, but I've never really been sure if this is the book for me. So I guess now is a good time, a good push for me to pick this one up. And I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but we're gonna read some monster smut. Then we have a 5-star read. So this is a book that you give 5 stars, and the hard mode for this is that you have to predict that you will give it a 5-star. Can you make a harder prompt for me? I don't think so. I'm terrible at predicting 5 stars, and I don't give 5 stars, so I feel like I'm in a little bit of a lose-lose situation here. However, one of my favorite horror authors that I have given super high ratings to twice in the past is coming out with a new book next year, and that is Nat Cassidy with When the Wolf Comes Home. And I don't know much about this. I know it's a werewolf type story. He always puts a good spin on some of the more like traditional elements, and I adored Mary and the Nestlings. Like, I loved both of them so much, so I can't wait to read this. I gave Nestlings a 5-star. I gave Mary a 4.5 star, so like this has got to be a win, right? Next up is a BIPOC author, and the hard mode for this one is an author that is new to you. For this one, I'm going to be going with The Reformatory. I am so excited to read this book. I've heard so many good things. It's about a terrible school, I believe, and this author just gets raved about all the time to me, especially this book, and I cannot wait to pick it up. Then we have Cryptid, and this is a book that features a cryptid creature, which from my understanding is a creature that actually exists, but has not been proven to exist. So like the Loch Ness Monster, or I think Sarah used Mothman. She also suggested Bigfoot or a unicorn or something like that. So for this one, I'm going to be going with Below by Laura Hightower. This is the only Mothman retelling. It's the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw the word Mothman, because I don't really know of a lot of unicorn horror or Loch Ness Monster horror, but if you have them, let me know. I have read Devolution, which is a Bigfoot horror, so I think that that could work. Moving down to the fourth row, we have A Title Has a Number. So this is a book with the obviously title featuring a number, but the hard mode is that the title includes more than one number, or it has a qualitative, so like midnight, half inch, etc. For this one, I think I'm going to be going with 14 by Peter Klein's. Editing Mill popping in here to say that yes, I realize 14 is one number. If you call it a 1 and a 4, it's two numbers. I'm probably going to need to come up with a new one for hard mode for this one. I don't know why my brain just saw the 1 and the 4 even though I said 14. We were having a moment and we're just going to ignore the fact that we were having a moment. We're going to go with it for this TBR, and then I will probably end up finding something that fits the hard mode just a little bit better. It is a little bit less of a stretch when I go actually reading them. Emma, one of my patrons, has been screaming at the rooftops for anyone and everyone to read this book. She said it was amazing. I did pick it up on an Audible sale a year or so ago, so I do need to get to it. It sounds interesting, and I think it involves bugs. Next up, we have Satanic Panic, which is a book that features elements from the occult, and the hard mode is a physical item is used in the book that falls under the occult category, so like a Ouija board or tarot cards or some kind of talisman or something like that. I googled, because I did not know of any occult books, and found this Penguin article that says, so you want to read occult horror and here's where to start. And on this list, they recommended The Ruins by Scott Smith. It sounded really interesting to me. Apparently it's about a group of friends that get trapped in the Mexican jungle, and when one of their friends disappears, they go looking for him, and it slowly spirals into a nightmare when they find an ancient ruin site and a terrifying presence that lurks there. In my mind, that does not scream occult, but I'm gonna trust the list and trust that maybe there's a little information the synopsis didn't give me, and we're gonna go with this one. Then we have a book club pick, so read a book that is through a book club. There's not any hard mode for this one. I think I'm gonna be going with So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison for this. It is the Not So Indie Archive book club pick for the month of September. So technically speaking, I would have to like squeeze it and wait a little bit in order to start, but this one is the newest book by Rachel Harrison. It involves vampires. It's the book club that Cassidy and I host over on Patreon. We read a book with both of our patrons every other month, and it is a lot of fun. Next up, we have Pink Horror, and that is a book that features themes of girlhood or womanhood, and the hard mode is that this has to be a debut. And I think I'm going to be going with the push for this one. This is her debut, which I was shocked by. I've heard so many good things about this, and it involves motherhood, so I definitely think it would fit for this prompt. I don't know a ton about this other than it is a psychological like horror thriller about motherhood and that nothing is all that it seems. Next up is Multi-POV, a book that has more than one POV, and hard mode that there is a dual or multiple timeline. Give me some recommendations for this one, because it's another one that I was like, okay, if I don't have the physical book, it may be hard for me to tell. So I would absolutely love to know if you have any recommendations for this one. Then moving on to our last row, we have As Seen on the Big Screen, so something that has a film show adaptation, and one that you have not seen the film adaptation for. Don't come for me. Somehow, some way, I have never seen The Shining. I don't know how. I've never read it. I've never seen it. I am a disgrace to horror readers everywhere, but I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, so that's probably why. But it's high time that I watch the movie and read the book for The Shining. Then we have Out of Your Comfort Zone, a horror that is in a subgenre you don't typically read. The hard mode for this one is that you have read from the author before. I think I'm gonna go with What Feast at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead. I did not really like book one. It's definitely out of my comfort zone. I don't love T. Kingfisher, but I have read from this author before, so I guess I'm picking up the sequel. At least it's short. And then moving on to a short story collection. The hard mode is that it features more than 12 short stories. I'm gonna go with Small Horrors. This is a collection of 50 short stories, so will absolutely fit for this prompt, and I love me some Darksy Coates. Then we have a TBR bet, a book that's been on your TBR for a very long time, one that you've had for over 2 years, or the oldest book on your TBR for hard mode. For this one, I'm gonna be going with Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. I've had this on like my radar / TBR for a very long time. I looked it up on Goodreads, and it's been on my TBR since 2018. And last but not least, we have Creepy Crawlies, a book that features creepy crawlies, bugs, snakes, spiders, and the hard mode is that there is imagery of them on the cover. I have to go with clowns versus spiders for this one. One of my Patreons, Nat, was talking about how much fun this was. We had an entire conversation on who would win, clowns versus spiders, although I don't think that that's like the true nature of the book because the clowns aren't scary. But in my mind, clowns are always scary, and I think the spiders could win. I kind of hope the spiders would win, but I am excited to see what this book is all about. She said it was a lot of fun, and it definitely has a spider on the cover, so works for this prompt very, very well. Okay guys, so let me know down in the comments again if you have any recommendations, especially for the prompts that I am missing. I would love your input because I was struggling. Thank you so much to Sarah for creating such an incredible reading challenge. I love a good bingo board, and I love that you can work on this all year and make it as hard or as easy as you want it to be. It's incredible, amazing. The prompts, so good, so challenging, and I love a good challenge. She knocked it out of the park, so you guys definitely need to go check it out. Like I mentioned before, I will link that down in the description box below, so go grab your own bingo card and fill out your own TBR. If you just want to let me know that you were here and hanging out, leave me a spider emoji. Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you're curious about more spooky challenges, I will leave my TBR for Cassidy's seasonal spooky challenge up here. She created a different type of challenge where you have 8 books to read, and I made a TBR for it. I will also leave her information down in the description in case you want another challenge to check out, but the TBR video will be here for you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Bye!